Welcome to the City of Portage Redevelopment Commission meeting for May. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Could we please do the roll call?
Here.
Commissioner Mark?
Here.
Mayor Mata?
Here.
And Commissioner Vasquez?
Here.
Did everyone have a chance to look at the minutes from the last meeting, and do we have a motion to approve them?
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Did everyone have a chance to look at the claims, and were there any questions before we make a motion on them?
Mayor, there
yeah.
were a couple issues with the claims themselves, and they were reviewed prior to the meeting, and I'll turn it over to Sonia to explain.
Thank you, Dan.
One of the things we found was that on the general docket, there were some fluorescent light bulbs that were purchased. We thought they were for the police station, but they ended up being for City Hall, so those have to come off. So on the general docket, that would be $174.96 taken off, making the total for that voucher or for that docket to be $20,992.01.
Thank you.
And then also on the NERC docket, we found that we had 2 Comcast invoices, which we were questioning. Coming to find out, we were given the EDCs. I don't know how we got it, but it's taken off our docket. So that was a $305.28 amount taken off, leaving the total for the NERC docket to be $11,038.34.
Well, thank you so much.
I want to thank Sonia for being diligent in reviewing all the claims that are submitted to make sure they're accurate and timely. Thank you, Sonia.
So this will be a motion to approve as verbally amended.
Well, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And that passed. We'll go ahead to our staff reports. Mr. Bowditch, would you like to go first?
I will first, happy Memorial Day to everybody, and everybody have a safe holiday weekend. There was a report, a staff report that for the RDC submitted by Director Tom Cherry of the Community Development, Sandy McDaniel is the Assistant Director, as well as Sonia Lindgren as the Recording Secretary and Administrative Assistant. There were a couple items that I will review with you that were specific. I will be brief. Number one, the landscaping improvements and maintenance that was started last month has been progressing. They have made improvements to a number of the areas to have the grass cut and have the winter rubbish and miscellaneous areas cleaned up for the summer. That is continuing. As far as the North Side Burns Parkway extension, we did have a meeting with SCH for a progress report on May 8th. They are still on track to complete the design by the end of the year for the extension, which is part of the READY grant that was submitted. The North Side Limestone Trail Maintenance, which is the trail just north of the NERC building, has been moving forward and will be completed with our work by the end of the week, assumed depending weather. There may be some other growth that is cleaned up, overgrowth and vegetation that's cleaned up along the trail also. So that's an update on the landscaping and an overview. The report has been submitted to you in detail of other work that's been done by the community development in cooperation with the Redevelopment Commission staff. The City and Redevelopment Commission staff have met on the downtown development discussions with the Portage Mall area. There was a presentation by a potential developer of about 30 to 40. The west area of the Portage Mall, there's interest by the developer and owner for that expansion of commercial property. I don't want to go into too much detail now, but there is interest, and the mayor and I and others of the city leadership did meet with them as far as that. I did mention previous to the meeting to the school representative as a non-voting representative of the commission. I did do some research and digging in my files. I did find the template and for the city's redevelopment commission in town of Maryville. Their educational grant program for a grant of up to 15% of tax increment revenue distributed annually. So I found it for both Maryville and for the city of Michigan City. I drafted those back in 2012, 2014, which is why it took me a little bit to find it. So I will have an updated template for you next month for your packets for consideration for discussion, and then consideration of having that type of program similar for the City of Portage's Redevelopment Commission. We did meet, the city leadership and I did meet with the Redevelopment Authority for Northwest Indiana. Sherry Ziller is the CFO, and her staff on a comprehensive new strategic plan for the RDA moving forward for the next 20 years. It was a very positive meeting. They're very interested in focusing on Portage's north side development and how it can play an integral role in the development and branding of the national park, as well as working with the cities of Michigan City and the city of Gary and their city leadership, Mayor Angie and Mayor Melton, and putting together some type of program or projects that can brand that and bring investment to Northwest Indiana. As far as the raise grant that we did submit for the Burns Parkway and the North Burns Parkway extension, that is pending at the forum and at the state level. We're awaiting the next steps, but I believe the forum has made some type of determination and is forwarding that over to the state through the IEDC for further discussion. I did speak with the mayor about and provide an overview of residential tax increment financing allocation areas for implementation, and he has asked me to put together a template for potential allocation areas that would be specific to residential development in the city of Portage, and that would capture just the improvements from residential. By statute, currently, residential improvements are not captured. The intent of the state legislation is to allow for those dollars that are captured by the Redevelopment Commission to be used for public safety and operating general fund costs to supplement as a result of redevelopment of property vacant, previously vacant property for to subsidize or to support the general fund for the city. So I'll put together that overview for the Redevelopment Commission also, and put together the template and a potential time frame for each one. That's my report. It's been a busy month.
Thank you very much. And I'd also add, too, we've got a meeting scheduled to meet with the school system about the residential, work that we're doing. It's something that Dr. Allenez and I, we've been communicating on very closely, along with some other things that involve development in the city that we're really excited about. But we are working with the schools on that, too.
Yes.
Thank you, Dan. Any questions?
I'd just like to thank you for checking that out and looking at the Maryville and the Michigan City, how they use the 15%. So
Right.
I look forward to hearing something in the near future, something very positive for our students. Thank you so much.
You are welcome. Actually, it was much research. I wrote those. It was just a matter of me finding them. I saved you a little bit of money.
Well, I'm
It
glad
didn't
you
have to
found
be
them.
rewritten. I already got it in Word, believe me. You are welcome.
Thank you, Dan. Tom or Sandy, did one of you guys want to come up, or are we all good there? I'm coming for you next, Bill, don't worry.
You summarized
Pretty good?
yeah, pretty much.
Perfect.
everything we had in the report.
Mr. Rathjen, if you're ready to come up, that'd be great.
Thank you, Mayor. Good afternoon, Commissioners. I have a couple quick items for you today. Several months back, you instructed me as the real estate consultant to pursue some property up on the north side, up on the north side by the marina. We pursued, it's 1285 Washington Street. We've gone through all the processes and talking with the owner. And as of tonight, and after consultation with Attorney Barnicki, we would like to write a $30,000 net offer to the property owner. To ask for your authorization for the mayor to sign on behalf of this board, pending final legal review.
So just to follow up on what Mr. Rathjen is saying, I've had the chance to review the purchase agreement, so there is no legal objection. So I do have a copy of it for signature today. So a motion to approve this will allow the mayor to sign the purchase agreement on behalf of the RDC as drawn up by the broker. So
Are there any questions? And if not, or if so, and then after, if we get a motion on this, that'd be great.
I will make a motion to approve the purchase agreement of this property for $30,000.
I second.
We have a motion, and we have a second. All in favor, could you signify by saying aye? Aye.
Aye.
okay, the mayor, I will present this to you after the meeting for signature then.
Perfect, thank you.
Thank you. The second issue I have for you tonight is relative to 6100 Southport Road. We did some mold testing on the building on May 7th and discovered at that time that there were 2 additional HVAC zones that needed to be done. Made the decision to have those tests done at that particular time, and the subcontractor has submitted a change order request for $980 for that work. So I would ask for a motion for the mayor to re-sign their their change order, and the work is complete.
I make a motion to approve the change order for $980. Is that correct?
Correct.
Second.
We have a motion, a second. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Thank you. That's all I have for you tonight.
Thank you, Bill.
Before we move any further, I might have missed it, and I apologize. Did we actually review and have a motion for the minutes? Or did I miss that?
Yes, I believe so.
Okay, thank you.
Sonia, can you confirm that? Because if I dreamed it, that's possible.
Penny moved and Ralph seconded.
Okay, I thought that was all right, thank you. I missed it. Got
No
it.
problem. Better safe than sorry.
I agree.
So going on to our new business, we have the consideration of Central Avenue West. Chris Murphy from American Structure Point.
Good afternoon, Mayor, Commissioners. I'm Chris Murphy with Structure Point, and with me is John Tucker. He's our head construction engineer assigned to the Central Avenue project. As we all know, the project has been on hold for quite some time due to the discovery of unsuitable materials that were not identified in the original geotechnical report, but were discovered as construction started out there. And in the interim, there has been work to do some additional geotechnical testing to determine what the limits of the unsuitable soils are, and then engineering work to come up with a solution as to how we address the unsuitable soils so that the project can be constructed for a 100-year lifespan at its new location, new alignment location. I want to start off with some good news. There has been an additional federal funding grant provided by NERC, valued at a little over $1 million in additional federal funds to assist with paying for 80% of the eligible costs of the added work to address this unsuitable soil problem. The other piece of good news is the contractor has identified the test piles that he needs. They have been purchased, and that's the first piece of work that has to happen out there to construct the appropriate solution out there. The contractor has purchased the test piles and is making arrangements to deliver those on site so that he can complete the test pile process. Then he will order the production piles that are needed to address the solution to the situation out there, and be working on the site starting in a short period of time here, probably before the end of the month, hopefully, and can start construction up consistently to work on the project throughout the summer to get that finished up. There are 3 change orders that will actually take place to address the additional work needed for constructing a solution to the unsuitable soils. The first change order was presented to this commission last fall, and I know not all of you were here when it was presented. And that is what we call a time and material change order. And that paid for, well, it hasn't paid for it yet, but the commissioners provided approval to go ahead and give notice to proceed for the additional geotechnical work needed and the additional engineering work needed to provide the extent of the additional work necessary to provide a solution out there. That work has been completed. It was a time and material change order. So we do have a final cost on that, and we're just organizing the paperwork right now, and we'll present the final change order for approval by this commission at your next meeting. I expect it will have the final numbers on that, or the final paperwork. The final number for that work is just about $91,100. of which a good portion of that is eligible for the federal funding grant costs, but there will be some of that cost that is local match costs provided in part by the city of Portage and also in part by Porter County for that work. And those final numbers, we'll have those worked up, what the share is. I do want to note that the federal funds are eligible, federal grant funds are eligible for use on eligible pay items involved by this change order. And by that I mean the work, the construction work and the engineering and additional investigations that are being completed for this project. Much of this work was unknown at the time that the project was bid, and because it was not known, and if it was known, it would have been work that would have been included in the original bid costs. So is eligible for the federal funding grant. But there are pieces of work that are additional work over and above what the original bid for the contract would provide, specifically items such as the contractor having to remobilize again his equipment out there to do this work because of the delay of the project. Well, the contractor's already been paid once for mobilization when we started the work, so that cost is that additional cost for the new mobilization is not considered eligible for the federal grant funds. So that would be costs that would be 100% provided for by the city of Portage and Porter County, but would be eligible for a claim for reimbursement due to the error involved in the original geotechnical investigation of not drilling the soil borings in the right places, or else we would have known of this unsuitable soil condition. So I know that's a long explanation of how these things are going and how they're ongoing, but I wanted to bring you up to date on where we are on this project. And then there are two other change orders, a second change order for time and material that will involve the additional timber piles that are needed to provide the solution for the unsuitable work. And that will pay for the test, furnishing and installing the test piles. Once the test piles are put in the ground, the contractor will know what length of production piles he'll need to order. And there'll be somewhere around 300 of those. That's why the test piling is so important, so that we get the order correct on the production piles. And then this second change order would pay for not only the purchase of the production piles, but also the installation of the production piles. And that change order is estimated at a little over $600,000 for that additional piling, of which, again, the majority of that would be eligible for 80% funding by the federal grant. But there would be some local match costs that would be borne by the city of Portage and Porter County that are eligible, and I'm not sure yet if there are any ineligible costs that would be involved. We'll follow with that and keep the commission up to date on that work. And then, so that INDOT has given the contractor direction to go ahead and order the test piles. The contractor has ordered them and is making arrangements for delivery. So tonight, with your approval to provide the contractor with that notice to proceed, we'll follow through and make sure that that construction gets started out there on the pile driving for the load transfer platform. And then the third change order will be a typical unit price change order, and that will involve all the additional costs needed for this load transfer platform work. Items such as grading and excavation, the concrete pile caps that will go on top of each one of these timber piles, the geotech soils and the aggregates to create that suitable platform to put the pavement on and put the bridge approach slab on, so that it's a stable, long duration project when we complete the work. And that change order will be somewhere around the $600,000 range. That again will be mostly eligible for 80% grant funding, but there will be a 20% local match needed for that project to be borne by City of Portage and Porter County to make that work whole when we get to that point. So I know that's a lot of detail I presented you tonight on the activities that have been ongoing to come up with a situation that we can all start moving ahead on the work on this project. And I think, I don't know if I missed anything, John?
No, I just think the overall schedule, the test piles will be the critical component to give a schedule. I'm sure most people want to know when things will happen, so hopefully we'll be able to get the test piles. When saying this month, let's just assume we're in June already. It's not going to happen in the next couple of days in the next week. But the test piles will be here in June, and then that'll give us to know the length and then the duration to get all the production piles ordered. So, and then we'll be able to provide a better outlook on schedule. So, and then just as clarity, the next couple change order, as Chris mentioned, those are federally funded, and those are what we're already been captured, the funding that we received to cover. So those are just kind of now finalizing the work. We just did a funding change order that just secured the money because we were under a critical time frame for that. So, and then we'll be able to analyze the rest to make sure everything is justified and what's needed for NDOT. That's all I have.
I'll just say that if other people have questions, but I just want to say I appreciate the work that you guys have put in, along with so many people on the city staff, Mr. Bowditch, Mr. Cherry, Sandy, just a lot went in to save this, and as you mentioned, there was a very critical timeline that had to be met to keep this going. And definitely excited to come into a new administration and have something with such a sharp deadline.
Day one.
Day one, whoa, but I truly appreciate the effort that's gone into getting this project saved and back on track. But if there's other questions, please feel free to
Thank you,
come
Mayor.
aboard.
I do have one other item, and this is where the costs start to come in for the city and Porter County that I do want to cover. The way the federal grant process works is that the 80% federal funds for the total amount of the change order, which we have estimated at about $1.3 million, 80% of that, a little over $1 million, will be provided by federal grant funds. But the balance of that, which is about 20%, which is a little over $260,000, will need to be provided by the city of Portage and Porter County toward this work. NDOT prefers to invoice for this full amount of the 20% up front, so that when the contractor submits invoicing for it, they have not only the 80% federal dollars, but they also have the 20% local match dollars needed to pay the contractor. So NDOT has sent Porter County an invoice for $264,135, and that work will be split between Porter County and the city of Portage based on where the limits of the bridge work is with regard to the additional work on the unsuitable soils, and where the road work is, which is the responsibility of the city of Portage. The bridge is the responsibility of Porter County. And that split is right about at 20% of the work is involved by the bridge, and 80% of the additional work is involved by the city of Portage underneath the road. So of that the total $264,135, just a little over $211,000 will be the responsibility of the city of Portage, and the balance of that will be the responsibility of Porter County. So at this point in time, the invoice has been sent to Porter County. We've reached out to NDOT on how we can best accommodate the split and get them the full amount of the invoice so that they can give that contractor the notice to proceed to move ahead. And I'll get those details to Tom and Sandy as we get that figured out, as well as Porter County. But it may be 2 checks involved, one check from Porter County for their share and one check from the city of Portage to send over to NDOT to accommodate the invoice.
Mr. Cherry?
I just wanted to add that we're still waiting from our city engineer to verify that proper split between county and city of Portage. He's verifying the percentage, so that's still, we're still waiting for that. So
Thank you very much.
I'll report that as needed. So.
Thank you.
That's all I have, Mayor, Commissioners. Any other questions I can answer? This will be an ongoing project, so I expect to be here on somewhat of a regular basis to keep you up to date.
There was some controversy last fall about the change order for the boring samples that were done erroneously. Some of us voted against those change orders for, I don't recall the exact figure, but it was $70,000 that was coming our way. I'd like some kind of assurance that this isn't going to be an ongoing problem, that we're not going to, you guys aren't going to come back to us again with other difficulties and more change orders. I mean, I reluctantly voted the first time after a mistake had been made and the boring wasn't at the right locations. I certainly hope that doesn't happen again.
Well, certainly with respect to the unsuitable soils, it won't happen again because we've already investigated all that and have an accurate understanding of what the limits of that problem is. In my experience of construction on these type of road, bridge, infrastructure projects, it's the unknown conditions that are underground that come back to you to create situations that you have to address. So my expectation is as we get this situation resolved with the unsuitable soils, most all the other work is above ground, and there should not be any unexpected issues that come up with above ground work because we all know what's out there.
Ralph, sounds very familiar to me, the first 2 weeks of being mayor, coming in and being aware, of the problem as it was. And they've heard me talk about it, and Dan's heard me, and Tom's talked. This has been certainly an ongoing process. So the frustration you express, I understand, because I felt it. I felt it a little bit later, down the calendar than you did, because you were on the board, longer than I've been. But when it comes to this, I think this is where you also mentioned that later down the road, it's going to take time. But you mentioned the claim and how we are going to be able, it's going to cost the city money up front to do this, but there is money that we can aim to get back. It's just that that's a bit of a legal process that we got to explore later down. But I agree with you, we need to watch this very carefully because it's a big project, it's a worthwhile project, but we want to make sure that once we got it going, it stays on track because, well, to put it simply, a lot of people want to see this get done, but they also don't want to see it waste more, time and money.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Oh,
So
I'm
what
sorry.
is the anticipated time frame for completion? I know you're saying it's going to take a long time, but I think the residents might want to know, have a ballpark figure.
My expectation is, and we don't have a final schedule from the contractor, but my expectation is the contractor will need almost all of this construction season to get the bridge work and the approaches to the bridge road work complete. So I expect that if he can't get it finished entirely this year, it will be mostly finished this year, and maybe some incidental details would have to be completed in the spring of 2025.
Now, by that,
But-
do you mean all three phases of the project? I know that it's a three-phase. Are you referring just to the bridge and the road
I'm
work?
referring just to the bridge work, Mayor, at this point in time. The second phase of the project is currently scheduled for a letting in October, and this is between NDOT and NERC. Because NERC has some federal grant funding problems that they're trying to resolve. So that they have pushed the project back. It was supposed to be a July letting. They've pushed it back to October, and which is probably a good thing in this situation, because if they had let it in July, that means we'd have two contractors out there working on the same piece of ground at the same time, which is just another potential problem that we all have to deal with. So if we push it, push back to October, it gives a chance for the bridge project to get complete or mostly complete before the second contractor's out there. But that'll be another item that I'll keep you up to date on as we get, further along this year into that into the bridge contractor schedule and the second phase of the project schedule.
And then the third phase of the project is the one where, I mean, I think you might have been in one of the meetings where I said, well, can't we start with the third phase? And the
That's
answer
right.
is,
That's right.
and the answer is, well, we just are not able to, given what's already happened. The third phase is the one that I think I'm most personally invested in, which is the improvements, the repaving and the work done on Central Avenue from County Line to Willowdale. And that includes drainage work, which will be a significant drainage improvement to the west side of the city. But that said, we need to get through the first two phases to be able to get to that third phase, which I think is going to also see a lot of improvement. Apparently, well, I'll leave out a whole bunch of detail, but I recently clarified that there's not going to be a roundabout at the intersection of Willowdale and Central. This is the project that has confused people into thinking that maybe that was coming, but we also got that one cleared up.
That's correct. There will not be a roundabout.
Then my next question would be to Mr. Cherry, if you can answer. I'm not sure if you have an answer for it, but you talked about the county also paying for part of it. Is there past practice that determines maybe they go 20%, 50% on projects like this?
Well, it depends on, so the county and the city of Portage are responsible for 20% of the project.
Tom, I apologize. Would you mind coming up to the microphone? Only because I know we're on camera. I want to make sure
Oh, okay.
people watching can hear it too. No, you're good.
So we're responsible for 20% of that between city of Portage and county. Where we're responsible for is for anything from it's the approach to the bridge. County is responsible for the bridge. So there's a breakdown as far as percentage that we've got city engineering verifying that 20/80 of that 20% as being our portion. So right now it's looking like 80% of that 20%, but we're verifying that. I mean, it might end up being 25, and who knows?
You're
So-
asking kind of how did the deal get worked out that we would do some, county would do others? I couldn't tell you that exactly because I wasn't the mayor, in the last 4 years, and there's nothing wrong with this particular arrangement in itself, but I would say that it might probably stem from how, generally speaking, the county handles the bridges, in the county, and of course, we'd handle the roadway. I
Correct.
don't know if that falls under some of the rules with how we ended up with this, but
Yeah, I believe
Yeah.
that's kind of why it worked that way. So we're just trying to figure out the exact percentage, but it's probably going to be, around that. So, but it's only that of the 20%. So,
So it's 80% of the 20%?
correct. Yep. About, yeah. What that is total, I'm not a mathematician, but yeah, that's kind of. the
Thank you.
breakdown. All right.
any other questions from the board? Hearing none, thank you guys so much, and again, I appreciate the work you put into keeping this going and getting this done.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Commissioners.
We have item 8.2, GIS system for the city, Northside Hillcrest US 20. Mr. Bowditch, are you speaking for that?
I could speak on it very briefly. We've been in discussions with a company, a firm to look at, and I may have mentioned this last month, that we're working with scheduling a presentation between myself, Tom Cherry, the mayor, and Andy Milletta of the Portage Economic Development Corporation to a GIS system that will be a beta test for the city. And the intention is for the Redevelopment Commission to assist in the funding or fund the project. And the project would be to have a GIS program through ArcGIS that would identify all the parcels in the US 20 corridor, as well as the north side of Portage, and identify them for the purposes of economic development and redevelopment, so that when we have discussions on properties like today, as far as purchase or identifying land assemblage, or if we receive proposals from developers or interest, we can put out information as far as the size of the parcel. Now, I know we all have access to that information at the county level, but this would also provide access to information such as the utilities that are available, where they're available, how close they are, what is the parcel acreage, what is it zoned, so that we can query that information pretty quickly. And if it's, for example, if a developer were to come to the city or to the Economic Development Corporation and look for all parcels that are vacant on the north side that are within access of a utility, we can query the system and it'll give us, and we can provide an answer pretty quickly. In the development world, time is of the essence. I know that's a legal term, but for developers, it means that they look for communities that respond quickly. If you do not respond quickly or in a reasonable time frame, they will go on to the next community. So the intent is to have a GIS system for the entire city over time, but to beta test this on the north side and the US 20 corridor, which is where most of the manufacturing, light industrial warehousing development is occurring. And it would be a valuable resource to the city. It'd be a valuable resource to the Economic Development Corporation. So I wanted to bring it up today just as an introduction to the Redevelopment Commission. And as I stated, we'll be scheduling a meeting with the company to have a presentation by them to see exactly what they can do. And at that point, may ask for a proposal and a quote to do that project. It's not a given, it's just we're looking at it.
I'm excited for it, and I guess I'll be excited to be part of it too, because I might come to the other side and be part of the presentation,
Right.
or maybe we'll work that out ahead of time.
Right.
But I love what you guys are doing, so thank you for staying on that.
And just to supplement, other interest is identifying all the roadways and identifying, so example would be identifying we have that information too, but identifying the pavement conditions so that we can look at it from a city portion. How do we identify the areas that need the asphalt repavement done, so that we're focusing on areas in totality as opposed to piecemeal spot replacing asphalt. So it has a lot of benefits and advantages.
Any other questions? So we'll get to the spot. I know we have some other items to come before, on the agenda. I'm going to kind of go in order based on what I know, then I'll invite others to come up. But I believe NIPSCO is up next.
Mayor, if I
Actually,
may,
before you, yeah.
go ahead.
As an employee of NIPSCO, I will recuse myself from this vote.
So just as an introduction, Northern Indiana Public Service Company submitted to the Redevelopment Commission a request for a temporary easement on US 249 at the parcel is just north of Burns Parkway Extension. I believe it's a 20 by 80 foot temporary easement for NIPSCO to make utility infrastructure improvements, which is not unusual. It was presented to us earlier in the week, and I apologize for placing it on the agenda at the last moment, but this is something where NIPSCO needs to have access to the site to make these improvements and is asking for a temporary easement to store their materials and their trucks for a period of not to be extended beyond August 15th. I'm sure they'll be done sooner, but if there's any time after that, they'll have to come back to an extension. I will turn it over. That's a quick introduction. I may have stolen your thunder a bit, but
Oh, no
I'll
problem.
give
Thank
you a quick.
Thank you, Director. I appreciate that.
And we did ask for NIPSCO representative to come here in case you did have a question on the request.
Absolutely. Thank you again, Director. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Commissioners, for inviting me here today to allow me to speak on this proposed temporary easement. Thank you, Sonia, for helping coordinate that. Just a little background. This project specifically serves one customer that was brought to us as a new business project. The Amazon AWS data center at the Ameriplex at the Port Complex. We're installing a pole line in the public right-of-way along State Road 249, which is a redundant feed to that Amazon data center to supply the power that they need to have the reliable service to keep that running at all hours and all possible times. So, and specifically we do these temporary easements a lot. This is pretty standard for us. Apologize about the rush on this one. Unfortunately, our contractors come on board late in the process and identify areas where they'll need space outside of that public right-of-way. So what's going to happen here specifically in this one spot is, as the director said, it's a 20 by 80 foot temporary easement, which will be used after the poles are set in the public right-of-way. The team will lay timber matting right around that pole, and it will extend past the public right-of-way into the property that the director just described, essentially across the street from the Ameriplex entrance right there. So when they pull the power cable, as it were, to install that finally, is why they need this 20-foot by 80-foot. So they'll put that timber matting down, they'll use that to place the equipment, and they'll pull and tighten the cable to make it operable. So as the director stated, we're looking for, a term that would terminate August 15th, so just about 2.5 months. We are offering to pay the city about $1,000 a month approximately, and would be able to extend that if needed. At this time, I do not anticipate that being needed. In fact, we should probably be done well before that expiration date. So it should be in and out of there. Following, picking up that equipment, timber matting, we will restore that area to, reasonably the best condition it was in prior to us being there. There is maybe some trees and growth that have been in that area, so there might be some trimming, but there's no substantial trees there, more or less just growth and brush in that area. So no permanent installations, that's just temporary that we're asking for. And yeah, I believe that's all the specific details. Any questions I can answer for you?
I've only got one regarding, I think I might be asking Mr. Rathjen, would this interfere with any, it sounds worthwhile, but are there any concerns we would have, given that we've got a purchaser of the area there? Would that interfere with any of the work that they need to do?
No, Mayor. Dan brought it to my attention earlier in the week, and we looked at it. We have no objections to it, and it won't interfere with the current development.
Gotcha, thank you.
And we also provided it to Attorney Bartnicki to review in advance.
This isn't one of those like 80-foot or giant towers or things we're seeing around town, or is that something else?
Those are monopoles, and I think that's the tie into the communication system. So no, this is just plain old utility poles that will be installing in the public right away, and just asking for that space so we can get those lines stretched across 249 there, and yeah, serve the customer in this case.
No problem, I don't mind either way, I just kind of was curious, when I saw, oh, NIPSCO, anyway, go ahead.
No, absolutely.
All right, would anybody like to make a motion on this?
The motion here will be to approve the easement to NIPSCO as outlined in the easement documentation that's been provided to staff. And as noted, I did have a chance to review. There's 2 sets of documents for signature. There's no legal objection to these documents and to the granting of the easement, but it's up to the commissioners as to whether or not they approve the easement. But it'll be according to the documentation provided to staff.
Do we have a motion?
I will move to grant the temporary easement to NIPSCO.
I second it.
We have a motion and we have a second. All in favor, except Penny, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And I wasn't trying to pick on you. Sometimes I've voted in meetings where I'm not supposed to vote in. Not like by recusal, but like the last city council meeting where I said aye. And I'm like, wait, no, I don't vote here. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Commissioners. Thank you, Director.
Mr. Harrison, I believe you wanted to come up? Sure.
Hello. I think this has been going on since last year, but the commission at that time asked the park department to get quotes to replace the generator at Woodland Park because we are an emergency heating and cooling facility. And I'm coming to you tonight to address the lowest quote we got, and that was for $58,220 from Alta. It is a Gillette generator, and it's compatible with all the components we currently have with the Generac generator that we have in place right now. It's quite old, so it's in dire need of replacement. And just coming before you to ask approval to move forward with the purchase.
Has this already been shared with the staff and the attorney?
Well, it's been budgeted.
Yeah.
Dan, it's in the budget?
We did budget for it. It was part of one of the projects. Tom and I had discussed it earlier in the year, probably right when I started, February. And we ensured it was on the budget list, and it's included in the budget. I believe it was $60,000 that we budgeted for the project. Right, and it came in under.
Well, that's always good to hear, even by, any amount.
Well, they were able to use the automatic transfer switch that's existing, so that saved quite a bit.
Attorney, are we good
I,
there? Yeah.
I don't recall seeing any of the paperwork on this, but we
Well,
could, t-
it's more,
I wasn't sure yet if there even was, so I,
yeah, I thought it was more of a formality, letting you
Yeah.
know that the budgeted amount
Yeah.
was.
Yeah, I think if it's in the budget, I mean, we're. pretty
yeah,
good
no,
to
I'm,
just operate.
there's no legal objection. I'm just, but like, there hasn't been any like contracts or papers or anything like that forwarded to me to review, so, but there's no,
Not yet.
yeah, there's no legal objection to,
Would it be appropriate to pass this, like, contingent on just legal review?
I'd say, yeah, the motion would be contingent to legal review. That'd be fine, yeah.
Okay, great.
I will make a motion to approve this upon contingent review by Attorney Bernicki.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right,
Thank you.
congratulations. Thank you. Any other business to be brought before the Redevelopment Commission?
I was approached by the owners of the On the Rocks facility about a dirt road that cuts across in front of their property, the old car wash, and our property that the RDC owns, and could we block that off in some way? And also, there's people that attend the Little League games on our fields, and they park in that same area. Can we restrict that parking or block off that old dirt road cutting across our property and their property?
I would think that that's pretty feasible. I think that, I couldn't tell you like exactly what's the best mechanism to use, but I mean, yeah, it's our property. We have an interest in making sure that people aren't going that way. It's, you mentioned a facility, but really that's in our interest no matter what, just to make sure that nothing's going on, back there, at least until we want something to be. Would that be something you'd be comfortable if I check in with our staff and we take a look at what's the best way to do that and bring it back to our next meeting?
That would be more than acceptable.
I guess I would actually ask Attorney Bartnicki, if we have the ability to do something quicker than our next meeting, is there, I guess I wonder is like, say the street department had some stuff they could put up, or basically I wonder what is my ability as executive to say, hey, let's put this up with stuff we already have versus we need a board vote to do something there.
Yeah, let me think about that a little bit, but if there is something that can be done prior to, we can talk about it, and, staff can work it up and figure it out, but if there is, yeah, let's think about that.
We'll keep you guys updated. I just feel like a board vote's granting the mayor authority to do whatever it takes to get people from going back there might be too broad, but we'll work.
That's probably a bit
close.
too broad, so yeah, staff will work it up and we'll come up with a plan.
You, Ralph? Oh, yes.
We do have another invoice from MS Consultants, where we thought we just were great and got it for a great deal. We did, we still got a great deal, but it's closer to what you had originally mentioned.
Okay, gotcha.
And I believe we need to probably approve it, because we only approved the last invoice for that certain amount.
So this is the original, contract still that we approved earlier in the year. So it's just, this is the second invoice for it. Is that right?
That's correct, and it takes us just about $380 short of the 10,000. $3.80 short.
So gotcha. So it's exactly what we anticipated rather than being under. We can't even claim it's like the generator. But I'm still very happy with the work that they did. It was pretty good. So Tom would agree. Get a motion on that? We want to wait till, well, whatever's best, but.
I think I'm going to need you to repeat who this is for. MSM?
MS. So this is when we did the review of the planning department and the economic work that they do and the operations of the department. So we had MS consultant come in from Indianapolis. They went and met with the staff. They reviewed the operations. And Tom, if you'd like to come up to say a little bit about it, I mean, they did cover a great detail of like what we do, and I think it's had a very positive impact on the department.
So they came in, MS Consultants, and actually spent quite a bit of phone time with us prior to their site visit, and they spent a full day interviewing staff, speaking with us, reviewing all of our paperwork, checklists, procedures, how we communicate with public. So the original estimate for that was $10,000, and we came to the board and that was approved. But the bill came in two parts. So this is the second and last part of that bill. So they have finished the consulting work with probably 100-page recommendations. So we're working through those right now, but they have completed, so.
Thank you. I will make a motion to approve the final invoice for MS Consulting.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Anything else to come before the board? And if not, do we have a motion to adjourn?
So move.
Do we have a second?
Second?
All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.